So the title of this section in section 2 is the Jesus and the King Saul connection. And so what I'm gonna be doing in this section, I'm gonna be reading a lot from 1 Samuel, um, but not too much. I think the longest point we're gonna read is from chapter 8 here. So we're gonna start off in chapter 8. Now, as I've said, there's a connection between Jesus and King Saul, and hopefully people don't immediately try to put me on the heresy train or whatever. Hopefully they try to understand what I'm seeing, and hopefully the things that I read, and enlighten you on where I'm going with this. And so I'm going to read 1 Samuel 8, or chapter 8, verses 10 through 22. Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked him of a king. And he said, This will be the manner of king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands, and captains over fifties. And he will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take of the 10th of your seed, and of the 10th of the vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he would take your manservants, and your maidservants, and your goodliest men, and your asses, and put them to work. And he will take a 10th of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in the day because your king, which ye have chosen, you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, Nay, but we will have a king over us, that we may also be like unto the other nations, and that our king may judge us, to go out before us, and to fight our battles. Now, even with verse 20, we can see at times people can have their heart in the right place, but not understanding that they already have something good. Just like what I said with the substitute teacher a while back, at times we can have something good, like we can have a teacher that's good, but then we get, uncomfortable with this teacher or whatever, and want to get rid of him. And so something worse comes in. Now, that's not necessarily the best example when it comes to comparing, Saul and Christ in this moment. But I think it's important to recognize that the people, they already had God as their king. And eventually he had to take that spot back, but they already had God as their king. And they wanted a man to come and judge them. And so it's something to take heed of in these times. People, instead of wanting the will of God for their life, they want to do things on their own. And understand, God will give you what you want. We're supposed to hearken unto him and diligently seek him. But if we desire something outside of what he desires for us more, he will give that to you. He did that with the Israelites in the wilderness, and we can see that here. But he ended up making those things right, but we got to understand why they were wrong in their thinking in this process. So even though they were saying good things like he will go out before us, he will judge us, he will fight our battles for us, not thinking about the things that the Lord had already done, bringing them out the land of Egypt, which they were supposed to remember, which was supposed to be a memorial for these people. They forgot all these things and chose a man as their king, and that's the point that we need to recognize from that. But you can see other attributes where they want a king. He's going to divide things. He's going to make war. Now, there's a lot of things that are prophecy about the end days that if people knew about, they wouldn't look at Christ the same way. But anybody who is wise, we understand that these things have to happen in these times. Judgment is going to have to come upon these nations that had tormented his people, and the same things that they had done to his people, the same things have to happen to these nations. That's prophecy, whether or not people want to deal with that or not. And so we're going to move on to 1 Samuel 9 and 16. 1 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 16. Tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt appoint him to be captain over my people Israel, that he shall save my people out of the hand of the Philistines, which are their enemies. And so even with that right here, we can see that even though people went against God, he was still using this man to fulfill his will. That show you the grace of God, because God was angry that these people called for a king. But even with this verse, it shows you the grace of God, even though they were being disobedient and they already had him as a king. And so we're going to read here at 1 Samuel 10, 1 through 6 is the next section we have to go to. 1 Samuel 10, 1 through 6. Then Samuel took a vial of oil, which is always something represented when somebody is being anointed, vial of oil, and poured it on his head and kissed him and said, Is it not because the Lord hath anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance? And anybody see Christ in that first verse? I'm going to keep on going. When thou art departed from me today, then thou shalt find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin and Zelzah, and they will say unto thee, The asses which thou wentest to seek are found. Now, then the Lord ride an ass into the city, and the people cried, Hosanna. I'm seeing these different parallels, and I'm hoping people seeing what I'm seeing, and it's not a far-fetched study. I understand that everything in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, is a foreshadowing of the New. Even though the covenant was fulfilled through David, I understand that Saul was still being used as a representation of Christ in these moments. And so that's what I wanted to point it out. The asses which thou wentest to seek are found, and lo, thy father hath left the care of the asses, and sorroweth for you, saying, What shall I do for my son? Then thou shalt go on forward from thence, and thou shalt come into the plain of Tabor, and there thou shalt meet 3 men going up to God to Bethel, carrying 3 kids. Understand, you remember the wise man came before Christ with the gifts. But see where I'm going with all this. Carrying 3 kids, and another in carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. And they said, And they will salute thee and give thee 2 loaves of bread, which was at the Last Supper. And thou shalt receive it from their hands, and they shall come to the hill of God, where the garrison of the Philistines, and it shall come to pass when thou art coming to the city. My bad. Did I read the part? Okay, I found it. They were carrying the bread and the wine. So that was the point that I wanted to point out about him being a representation of Christ. Okay. The hill of God were the garrison of the Philistines, and it came to pass when thou art come thither to the city, that thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place, with a psaltery and a tabret, a pipe, harp, and before them, and they shall prophesy. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and shalt be turned into another man. I'm going to move on to the next section. 1 Samuel 11, 1 through 6. And at first, when I was reading all this stuff, I'm like, man, you're going to keep pointing stuff out, verses 1 through 6. Sometimes stuff We just got to follow what God is showing us. But you'll notice different parallels within the Bible. If you're paying attention and if you recognize certain things and why they are happening. Right here at chapter 11, it says, then Nahash. Now, we have to understand Nahash means serpent. It literally means serpent. And so we see King Saul dealing with this serpent king as well, which is something that Christ had to do. And so I'm going to read verses 1 through 6 here. And, hopefully that understanding helps you guys out with this. Then Nahash, the Amorite, came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead, and all the men of Jabesh said unto Nahash, we make a covenant with us, and we will serve thee. And Nahash the Amorite answered them, on this condition will I make a covenant with thee, that thou may thrust out all your right eyes, and lay it for reproach upon Israel. So they had to make a covenant. That's deep. When I even thought about that, I started thinking about how the Illuminati do that one-eye symbolism stuff, but we ain't going to get into that right now. And lay it for a reproach upon all Israel. And the elders of Jabesh said unto him, give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers into the coast of Israel. And then, if there be no man to save us, we will come out to thee. Then came the messengers to Gibeah of Saul, and told the tidings in the ears of the people. And all the people lifted up their voices and wept. And behold, Saul came after the herd out of the field. And Saul said, what aileth the people, that they weep? And they told him of the tidings of the man of Jabesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul. The Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard these tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly. And so we need to understand when men of God operate within anger. Anger is not always bad. The Bible shows us and instructs us what to do with anger. And so we need to understand that even Christ got angry. Christ flipped tables in the temple. We need to understand the manner of man that he's going to be when he returns. And so hopefully people are seeing these parallels between Christ and Saul as we speak. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 12. And then we're going to read 12 through 15. 1 Samuel 12, verses 12 through 15. And when ye saw that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, and ye said unto me, nay, but the king shall reign over us, when the Lord your God was your king. Now therefore, behold, the king whom you have chosen, whom you have desired, and behold, the Lord hath set a king over you. If you will fear the Lord, and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall both ye and the king that reigneth over you continue following the Lord your God. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you, as it was against your fathers. Hopefully people can see it even then. And as we see in chapter 13, Paul was given, or not Paul, messing up the Saul. Saul was given instruction to go and kill everything, to wipe out everything. And the only reason why I'm explaining this is because this has something to do with Christ as well. But we have to understand that when Christ comes and his commandment is to slaughter and kill everything that offends, he's not going to mess up. That's man, woman, beast, that's cattle. He's going to destroy everything that isn't of him, everything that is owned by the wicked. He's going to destroy all of it, and he's going to purify the earth. We have to understand that and understand why God seems so harsh against evil and wickedness in the Old Testament. It's because he didn't want his people to be influenced by these things or to dwell around these things. And so the only solution for that was to eradicate these things off the land. And so that's an important point to understand. And that's the section 2 of this study, the Jesus and the King Saul connection. Peace.